Hey guys, welcome back to another video. And I'm really sorry because I had committed to myself that I would be releasing at least one video every weekend, but I couldn't keep up to that promise. I couldn't record a video last weekend because of my bandwidth. So I'm really sorry for that. And let's get started to the new topic that I've come up with. So at some point of time, we all think of launching our own brand or our own startup. If you work as a product manager, quite a few times you will be asked to work on a new feature or a new product for a company. And we struggle a lot. When it comes to startup, every time we think that we need to have some innovative idea, then only we'll be able to launch a startup, else it wouldn't be possible. But that's not true. Sometimes you can take inspiration from the existing brand and using that inspiration you can launch your own startup. But how do you do that? That is what I'm going to be sharing in today's video. So in case of launching your own startup or a new feature or a new product within your company, sticking to the company's goal, so how do you do that? Everything I'll be discussing in today's video. So as you all know, my name is Anubhav Mishra and I'm a product manager currently working with Charger. So let's get started. So as you can see, I have already written this blog and this will be live very soon. You'll find the link to this blog in the description. So feel free to read that. In case if you don't want to read that, stay on the video. We'll deep dive into the topic. So before we actually jump onto the framework that we are going to be discussing, we need to understand three basic frameworks. The first one is what is system thinking. Second is jobs to be done, a very interesting and my favorite framework. Then we'll understand Kano model, which I have previously also shared in the blog. And then we'll get onto the final topic, and that is how to starting up. Okay, so let's get started. So first thing first, that is what the hell is system thinking. So system thinking is actually very simple and very easy concept. So I hope you're excited for this session and understanding what is system thinking. So you might have a lot of theories around what is system thinking, a lot of detailed concepts around what is system thinking, what not is system thinking. So as I have already said in few of my videos and blog, that when it comes to understanding the theoretical definitions of what is system thinking or any other topic around product management, so I wouldn't be sharing much of those technical definitions to memorize. Rather, I use this concept of storytelling. So I'll tell you story around the topic, and then you can relate to that story and go and learn the technical jargons and the concepts in case you wish to. So in the description, I have attached the link to this whole blog, wherein you will find the link to the technical thing around system thinking. The only thing that I would be sharing around system thinking is what is system thinking. Okay, so as a product manager, you work in two spaces: understanding the system and then changing the system. This is what, if you broadly describe what is system thinking, this is what it is. Okay, and just to give you an example to that, now what do you mean when I say understand the system and change the system? Very simple. Okay, what is this? We all know that this is milk. Everyone knows milk. So you need to understand milk, what are its chemical compositions and everything about the milk. Okay, and once you understand that, then you change it. How do you change it? You change the milk to ghee. A very simple example to that. You can change the milk to ice cream. Everybody loves ice cream, right? You change the milk to curd. And not just these examples, you can change this milk to many other things. So now what do I want to explain from this? Okay, so when you deep dive into the topic, understanding the system, then that helps you to have second and third order of thinking, eventually changing the system. Okay, so now you might wonder, a lot of time you cannot change the system from your product. For example, the weather app. Okay, so a weather app cannot actually affect the weather, but it can just monitor the weather. Okay, a lot of time there are apps that can affect other second and third order thing. For example, Facebook. There was a controversy that Facebook is affecting the election results by showing certain type of content to people so that they are motivated to agree to certain type of campaign. Now I don't know if how true that it is, but that was in the news. So now you get it that okay, something affects something. Okay, so connecting these dots, understanding them, deep diving into them, that is only system thinking. And you can learn more about system thinking in the topic itself, wherein in system thinking I have shared this link, as you can see, resources. So tools for system thinking, you can deep dive into the topic to the theoretical aspect of the system thinking. So that's it from my side for system thinking, because again today we are not going to be studying system thinking, but that is something else. Now jumping on to the second topic, and that is what is jobs to be done. I'm sorry, this is Mac feature. When you do something, so there are some icons. Okay, so now what is jobs to be done? A very interesting and my favorite framework. Okay, so now the very first question that I would like to ask you is, why do we buy product? Answer is written, we all can say. Actually we don't buy product, we hire product to get something done. Okay, people buy, like you hire this mobile phone so that you can communicate instead of writing letters and all those stuff. Okay, so now this will again come back to you, this question, in more interesting way. Okay, so now the point is, how do you build a business? A lot of time we think that okay, there is a demand and then you fulfill that supply, and that is what builds a brand. But that's not true. And why that's not true, I'll tell you that. Okay, it's not the demand and supply that builds a brand. It's something more than that. And what is more than that? Struggling moment creates demand. Okay, when you are struggling to do something, that is where a new brand is established. Okay, now there's a story time. I'll tell you a story and then you'll be able to relate to all of that. Okay, first question, why do you buy toothbrush? Before we get onto the story, tell me, why do you buy toothbrush? Think of it, let me know in the comment section, and then you can match the answer. And I know a lot of you might say that we buy toothbrush to brush your teeth, which is not the right answer. You don't buy toothbrush to brush your teeth. Actually, you buy toothbrush to keep your teeth healthy. And this is an example of system thinking, wherein I was talking about second order and third order thinking. Because if something else could keep your teeth healthy, you wouldn't use a brush to keep it healthy. Okay, now jumping on to the McDonald's case study. So back in long time back, so I'll be using more of a storytelling approach to tell you about this McD story, but here I have written detailed story, so you can feel free to read it. Okay, so now let me tell you a very famous story. Okay, so McD came up with milkshake, and they were very excited because they had done a lot of research in launching this milkshake. They thought that they have made the world's best milkshake. Okay, and the product, the milkshake, was live in the market, but McD very soon realized that their milkshake was not doing good. People were not buying milkshake. Okay, so to McD was very curious that okay, we have built one of the best milkshakes, but why people are not buying it? So to find the answer, McD started doing research, and in research they contacted all their customers. They took the feedback. They took as many feedbacks as they could take from the customer. They did focused research, focused group research, focused research, and every feedback that they got from the customer, that okay, this is missing from your milkshake, if you add this it could make the milkshake more tastier, and everything that they took, they all incorporated all the relevant feedbacks in the milkshake. And guess what happened? The new milkshake got launched, but still it did not do well. So where's the problem? Can you guess? MACD was not able to figure out where is the problem lying. Okay, so this time MACD decided to hire a group of professors from Harvard University. And when these professors came, they started doing research. What kind of research? They made few people stand at MACD and observe every customer that is coming to the shop. Okay? Observe, make details of every customer. What is he wearing? What is the time he's buying the milkshake? Is he coming in group or individually? Every detail that they could capture, they were capturing every detail of the customers. And very interestingly, they found some interesting insights. And what were those insights? They found that 50% of the milkshake that was being sold was around close to 8 or 8:30 in the morning. So, out of very curiosity, the researcher he went to one of the customers and asked him, "What made you hire this milkshake? Why did you buy or why did you hire this milkshake? There might be some unfulfilled need that might have made you buy this milkshake." And interestingly, what people answered was that they have to travel to their office, they have to take a long drive, they get bored and they want something to engage them, and also that should be healthy and should be long lasting so that it should last for their entire drive. And that is where the MACD milkshake was fulfilling the purpose. The MACD milkshake was thick and that used to last long and it was healthy. That is why people were hiring milkshake. And that was one of the reasons why it was being sold mostly during the morning time. So it was an example of jobs to be done framework used at its best. Now, what these researchers did to improve the sales of MACD. Okay, now since you know what was the purpose they were buying in, because it could last long. I guess it was lasting for 23 minutes on an average for every customer. So now the purpose was to last long. So what MACD did was they incorporated these feedbacks in the rather than changing the nature of the milkshake, they did something different by making the milkshake more thicker, by maybe some people say that they reduced the size of the straw more narrower, it lasted more longer. And when they did all this to improve the sales, they made it thicker, straw size got reduced, and it was introduced in drive through because it was taking really long time for people to get milkshake once they've ordered it. So they introduced it in the drive through because people were mostly buying it while going to office and they didn't want it to waste their time. And as soon as these things were done, there was a huge spike in the sale of milkshake. Okay, so what do you understand from this? Now we studied system thinking and jobs to be done. Jobs to be done tells you that maybe the way you're looking at problem might not be the problem and something else could be the problem. Because again, with MACD, they were busy in fixing the product, the taste of the product, but the reason why people were buying was something else. So this is what jobs to be done tells you, that not always what you're thinking your customers might be facing the challenge is not always the challenge. Sometimes it's something else. And how do you find that? By using jobs to be done and system thinking. What is system thinking? By second order and third order deep diving into the problem. Okay, you will also get an article wherein it talks in detail about this case study. Okay, I had used a very simplified version of what the problem was. Okay, you can also get a detailed version of it here as well. Okay, oh, so the story just got published. All right, so you can feel free to read it. Now let's move ahead. So we have understood jobs to be done. Okay, so this was an oversimplified version of understanding jobs to be done. Now we'll also understand Kano model, and then we'll get into how you can build your own startup using these frameworks. Now, what is Kano model? Very simple. Okay, whenever you are developing your product, you need to develop it into 3 stages. Okay, so if you look at this y-axis, user satisfied. Here user is dissatisfied. need fully met, need not met. So whenever you are developing your product, first thing that you need to ensure is it should have all the must have features. Now, what is that must have feature? Let's take an example of Flipkart and Amazon. Both have add to cart button on the left and buy now button on the right. So there are some must have features. Okay, if your product has that must have feature, the need is fully met, so it wouldn't make the customer much happy. It wouldn't excite the customer. If the need is fully met, it wouldn't make the customer very happy. But if the need is not met, it will dissatisfy your customer. Now let's take an example to this. A very good example that I have mentioned here in this article itself, that is must have feature, a seat belt. If your car is not having a seat belt, that will immediately dissatisfy your customer. But if it does has, that will not increase the satisfaction level of your customer. So there are some must have features. Whenever you are making your own product, make sure that it has all the must have features. And it's very normal. You can take the inspiration from existing brand. You can just copy and there's not an issue. Because if you look at Amazon, it has some must have features placed at certain places, and similarly you will find it on any other application like Dunzo, Swiggy, Zomato, any other e-commerce or quick commerce application. So you must first develop must have feature. After you're done with must have feature, you should focus on performance. For in case of performance, more is better. Now if your performance is good, if your graph goes like this, your user the more the needs are fully met, it will result in more user satisfaction. And the lesser it is, it will lead to more, the lesser the need is met, it will lead to user dissatisfaction. Now what is a good example to this? It's a mileage. Okay, let's say you have a car A, which is exactly similar to car B. The only difference between both these cars is that car A gives you a mileage of 20 kilometers and car B gives you a mileage of 25 kilometers. You will definitely go for a car that gives you 25 kilometers mileage, because that's the only difference and you want performance, so you will go with performance. So once you are ready with must have features, focus on building those features for your application that leads to performance. And then comes the last development, that is creating delighter. If need is not fully met, that wouldn't lead to any kind of dissatisfaction. But if need is met, that will result in exponential delight for the customer. A very good example to that is when GPS got introduced in the car for the very first time. So this is an example of delighter. Okay, so now the lesson or the story that you need to remember from Kano model is that whenever you are developing your product, you need to prioritize all the features in 3 stages. First, you have to focus on all the must-have features in your application. Then you need to emphasize on performance. And finally, once you're done with the performance, then you need to start working on delighter to make a great product. Now we are done with system thinking. We're done with jobs to be done. We are done with Kano model. Now jumping on how do you build your own startup or a product. Okay. So here we'll take this example. So this is a brand A that already exists and this is the brand B that you want to launch. And here we'll take a reference of edtech industry. Let's say that I want to open an edtech company by my name, Anubhav Academy or something like that. So how do I do that? Okay. So what are the existing companies in the market? We all know Udemy, Great Learning, Upgrad. So as we discussed that underserved needs lead to a push force that people want to leave the platform. In Udemy, we know that we don't have a live support. In Great Learning or Upgrad, we know that courses are expensive. So there are some needs that are not being met for the customers that will result to a force F1, and that would make people or encourage people to leave the platform. So how do you build your own brand out of this? You might be wondering. All you need to do is fulfill that underserved need. Okay, and once this force F1 is created, people get into discoverability. Okay, they start discovering new products out there in the market, and that is where you need to create your own brand, maybe Anubhav Academy or whatever. And in that brand you need to add features that is not being met by these brands. And when you build that feature, you need to create a pull force. Now that pull force could be marketing around your own features, so that people at least get to know that okay, these are the underserved needs, these are the underserved needs, people are discovering that the needs, you have built that need, now you market and pull those people this side. But that's not that easy actually, because when people come onto your product, now let's say you have built hundreds of features, okay, that will create a kind of anxiety to people, because you don't need to have everything. Okay, you don't need to have everything, you need to have relevant features that your customers want. Okay, and not just these features will create anxiety, people would also want to leave your product and not come onto that because the habit of present. So how do you counter that? How do you make a very strong F2 force so that people do not leave your platform and stick to platform? So as we have discussed, first when you are building your brand, feature one, so make sure that all the features that this company has, all the relevant must have features, you make them first, then performance first, and the delighter at the last. And that delighter would be a feature that your competition is not serving. Okay, now you might be wondering, okay, if I make that delighter, how about your competition can copy? Definitely they can copy, but it's not that easy for them, because a lot of time legacy issue happens with company. So let's say when you are a startup, you're flexible enough to experiment and launch different kinds of features, but sometimes those features are not aligned to the goal of the company. For example, upgrad might not come up with 400 500 courses just like Udemy, because they are tapping into the university and more of B2B kind of system. So that would not be possible for upgrad. So if you launch something like that, again upgrad can copy, but I don't think so it would be that easy for them to take this business decision. And that is the leverage that you will have. Make sure, as I have shared in this blog itself, that when you are developing the feature, make sure that you're not coming up with garbage features. Okay, now what do I mean by garbage feature? You ended up giving everything in your product. Okay, that will result in anxiety for the customer, and customer may not love your product in that case. Okay, so avoid giving overwhelming features, because that will result in anxiety and that will create a push force from your brand. Okay, you only need strong F2 pull force. Okay, and that F2 should be so strong that it should cancel out any other force out there. Just to give you an example to that, okay, QuickBook, it has half the features and double the price than its competition, but it still has more sales than its competition. And there's a very famous saying for that: you're better off with a kick-ass half than half ass old. Okay, it's better to have lesser feature, but they should be extremely good. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this framework, and it's a very great framework. Okay, and it was shared by Bob in one of the Lenny's newsletter, so I give a credit to him. But again, now to tell you about this framework, I had connected system thinking, jobs to be done, and Kano model, all of that, to tell you about this feature. Okay, so the last thing and very important thing, whenever you are creating must have features, make sure you are following Kano model of must have, then performance, and then the delighter part. So just to do a small revision, what did we study today? We studied about system thinking, which is about understanding the system, changing the system, milk to curd to ice cream to anything else. Okay, then we studied about jobs to be done. What is the job that needs to be done to fix the problem? We studied through the example of MACD. And then we studied about Kano model, which is a very famous framework which talks about must have features, performance, then delighter, and then finally we came back to jobs to be done framework, wherein we related all these three concepts to understand how you can build your own brand and how you can build a new feature or a new product for your company. Okay, I know it's a very oversimplified example and I cannot cover a lot of things in the video. So let me know in the comment section if you want me to cover something more. I'll create a video around it. Else I'll drop the answer in the comment section. Thank you. Bye bye. See you all in the next video.